members of the council. We're going to wait for him to set this up. Excellent. I've tried to come before this honorable council on a couple of occasions. Unfortunately, I kept getting sidetracked, once with COVID, once with a death in the family, and last time we had an important bill before the General Assembly that I was up there testifying on behalf. But I think it's important to review with the council and the community some of our accomplishments over this past year during what was a difficult year with the pandemic, and you know, that were impacting our services and what we were able to do. But despite that, I'll be happy to report on some great progress here in the city. Next. So the first thing we got to doing is we continued caring for our community. Our first responsibility and our primary responsibility was to make sure that we took care of people during this pandemic. We were able to establish a COVID-19 call center and a clinic at the senior center. We lobbied for and opened a regional vaccination pod, which was very successful. Not only did it service our immediate residents, but those of the surrounding community. We had walk-in test sites at Breed Hall, and then we lobbied for and were awarded a second testing site at the Fuller Library. During the year of 2021, we issued 36,639 vaccines, and we tested 7,000 times. In addition to the pod that we set up, we also held several pop-up vaccine clinics to try to reach as many residents as possible. Public safety accomplishments were many, but just to highlight a few, we're very honored that the Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency chose East Providence to be the host of the East Bay Heavy Rescue Task Force. We met with the director of EMA, as well as our fire chief and members of his command staff to discuss this. It's an honor for our community to be hosting it, because not only does that give us quicker response time should we ever have to use our heavy rescue task force, but in addition, we get $75,000 annually as a grant to facilitate training. So we're offering our firefighters and our personnel more training in the way of heavy rescue task force operations. We also staffed a force rescue in Rumford, and we also graduated our largest training academy to history. There was in history, there was 20 recruits that graduated the 34th Training Academy. At the same time, we started a recruitment effort to kick off our 35th Training Academy, which will be kicking off in a couple of months, or even actually I think in a month this year. And that's the 35th Training Academy with 21 recruits slated to be part of that. Our police department was very active also in trying to enhance their manpower and to bring more recruits on. We held 2 police recruitment drives. There were a total of 10 new hires, 16 promotions, and we rolled out a test for our body-worn camera system. So as you all know, there's money available at the state level to fund police body-worn cameras. We're waiting on, and I believe we're very close to a policy being issued by the Rhode Island Attorney General's office, which will allow all municipalities to be on the same policy. And once that happens, we're ready to roll with this, because we already had our men and women of the police department test out the different body cameras, and they came up with what they felt was the most effective and useful equipment. So we've selected a user. We went out to bid. As soon as we get the go-ahead from the Attorney General's office and the funding gets released, we'll be able to purchase these at a significant savings to the municipality. We won't have to pay for most of this out of pocket. We did run our 3rd annual Mayor's Summer Youth Police Academy. So that academy is put on by the police and fire, and it was a way to expose our youth to what it's like to be a police officer, what it's like to be a firefighter, what it's like to work in that capacity, because we know it's harder and harder to get people to get into first responder roles or to get into the police and fire department. We want to expose our youth to the different professions. We're hoping that at some point, a seed that we plant will germinate into a full-time firefighter or police officer. We've also graduated a couple of detectives from our BCI school, and we held our very first public communications dispatcher academy. That academy was put on by our police and fire department, because we were finding that we were hiring communications dispatchers and putting them into the training role on site, and they were having difficulty with it. This was a way for us to have an opportunity to teach potential candidates the basics, go over policy, and really to see if they are cut out to even make the list. So that kind of helps us weed out any potential weak candidates. But one of the most important things that we accomplished, I think Principal Rebello Costa will agree, is that we brought on a new member of the East Providence Police Department, Marty. The newest member of IBEPPD is a community comfort dog that has seen a lot of action around the community, engaging with our older population, our younger population, and he brings a smile and comfort to everyone who interacts with him. Human resources were very busy. We did a lot of hiring. There were 142 police applicants. This is where most people don't understand how difficult it is to get police officers. Out of 2 drives, we had 142 police applicants. We had 35 that made it to the interview. I mean, that's incredible when you think about 20 years ago, there were thousands of people applying at the same time. We did try to, and we have been very successful in trying to increase our recruitment efforts through community outreach with NAACP, DLT, DOA, and Urban League, as well as a progressive center and local businesses. We also, the HR department was responsible for helping to go and actually negotiating with our law department, negotiating 2 contracts with the steel workers and our EPP MTEA. So great work by our solicitor's office. Solicitor Marcello is involved in all negotiations, and our HR department. Economic development. I mean, I want to touch on this because there is so much going on in our city. And you saw earlier from the presentation on the redistricting how in 10 years we only grew by 132 people. That's all we grew. What does that mean? That means that people are staying in their homes as the younger population moves on. They want to find a place to live in East Providence, and they can't find it. I get those complaints all the time. So we're seeing a lot of development here, and one of the partners that we're dealing with is One Neighborhood Builders. They've acquired Sutton Place. There's going to be 36 units of affordable housing. They're spending millions of dollars in renovating all of those apartments. With that particular project, we have met the state goal of 10% affordable housing. Further economic development is taking brownfields or undeveloped property and turning it into a great project. This project is off Dexter Road. It's a solar partnership that generates 3.5 million kilowatts of electricity yearly on a 9-acre former tank farm. So this is an incredible, a really good development because that property now brings in $280,000 in new annual property tax to the city. And it also helps out RIPTA, who partnered with them, to purchase electricity at a much more affordable rate. Phillipsdale project is something that this community should be very proud of. It's in the East Providence Waterfront District Commission underneath their purview. And that property was just purchased by a developer for $8.3 million. This is a property that used to be vacant. It was empty. And over the last 5 years, the previous owners, with the help of the East Providence Waterfront District Commission, were able to bring it to almost full occupancy. So, you know, we met with the owners. Myself and Bill Fazioli met with the owners, and he actually said that one of the reasons why he decided on this project and purchasing this project was that there was so much transparency with what was going on in the city through our social media use and our website, that he felt that, you know, this city is willing and ready to work with developers. In that facility right now, you have Enotap, Studio Done, Arkwood, We Share Hope, CrossFit Phillipsdale, and Emerald Custom Fabrication, just to name a few. East Point Development, you've heard about this ad nauseum. I'm not going to repeat it all, but what's important to repeat or to mention is that this property has sat vacant for decades, not doing anything. You know, when we took office, our administration got right to work to see if we could move this project along. I am so grateful to the members of the council today who voted unanimously on that TIF. This, by the way, as I go over these projects, this is not one person who accomplished this. This is a team effort. A lot of these things are only able to be accomplished because of the members on the council who support the administration's position on a lot of issues. But this one development, for instance, when we first took office, we sat down and met with the receiver. We met with the special master, and we really emphasized the importance of moving this project along. We want to see something happen here, and I'm so excited and happy to see that this year you're probably going to see a groundbreaking here. This will be a great addition to the city. The most important thing too, and I know that this has been discussed up here, there will be 10% affordable housing on this property. That's one of the things we want to strive for, is more affordable housing. Even though we meet our 10% requirement at the state level, we're adding more. There's nothing wrong with adding more affordable housing. East Providence Arts District is something that we're super proud of. Through your efforts, the City Council, our state legislation, and our administration, we came together and was able to create it's East Providence's first ever arts district, which is already seeing incredible results. So what the arts district does is that it exempts artists who live in the district from state income tax on art that's created in the district and sold in the district. So that's a real great incentive. As a result of this, as a result of what's going on, 3 rundown properties on Valley Street were purchased for $3 million by the developer, who specifically said that this is what drove him here to East Providence. He invested $3 million in 3 rundown properties. And from my understanding is that there's more of those rundown properties that are being picked up and purchased for development. That Valley Street is within the Arts District. We've worked closely with East Providence Arts Council. The council has funded public art money to make sure that we have a nice public art campaign. You're going to see some incredible art being displayed. As a matter of fact, you see Jen Cahoon standing before one of the projects that are going to be situated later this year. It's a public art piece that's unique. I haven't seen any others around. It's a lighted tower that will allow for different art to be situated on it and displayed on it, and then changed out every so often. It's really exciting. So we see a lot of great art projects coming up. Healthcare is big. I mean, in 2021, we welcomed Pace RI to its new flagship headquarters. It provides wellness and services to elderly residents in our region. We have one of the oldest populations populations in the state. When you look at the percentages here in East Providence, people stay in their homes long term, and that's why you don't see our population growing, because people stay there as their younger relatives move on. But this property was once a former vacant Citizens Bank call center, had been vacant for quite some time. 66,000 square foot facility, more than 100 jobs came into East Providence, and $10.5 million was invested into that. Great new amenity to the city of East Providence and for its residents. Very exciting. The council authorized and approved and adopted a mixed-use overlay district to jumpstart redevelopment in commercial corridors. Once historic commercial corridors that you see some rundown or empty vacant storefronts. With this mixed-use overlay, it allows for greater residential development. We've already started to see some impacts of that with what's going on at the former Print Source building, where those residential units that it was a former commercial building turned into half commercial and half residential. All of those units are full and fully occupied, and the lower commercial units are almost 100% occupied. So Taunton Avenue, Waterman Avenue, Warren Ave, and Riverside Square are just some of those commercial corridors that have been positively impacted by the mixed-use overlay district. And once again, thanks to the council for passing that. A lot of communities were having a difficult time during 2021. We were in year 2 of the pandemic, but I'm proud to say that East Providence, we had a different experience. We saw new business growth at a time when many municipalities were seeing businesses shut down and people moving away. Mina's Brazilian Cafe and Taquinado, 2 ethnic restaurants opened up here in the city. They're both doing very well. I try to stop in there at least once a week just to say hello. Quick Fitting Holdings Company, which is a manufacturing company, moved its headquarters from another municipality into East Providence on Waterman Avenue. Aquas Group, which is located on Waterman Avenue, just purchased a large commercial property on a commercial way. They're going to expand their operation. We actually took a tour of that property, that business the other day. It's incredible what they do. Zoll Medical Group is coming into the city. The agency Piva is building a brand new facility on Warren Ave at Bright Ridge. Royal Flush Plumbing moved their operation from out of state to East Providence in 2021, and Fulton Speedworks is preparing to open up their business here, and they do sailing boats. There's another huge development, 25 Fairmount Avenue. It's 108,000 square foot industrial space that sold for $5.8 million last year, and that property is primed to be occupied in 2022. But the business owners, they're keeping this under embargo until they're ready to make the announcement. But it's a significant company that will be moving into East Providence, bringing many jobs, and once again, expanding our tax base. We want to expand the tax base. Our East Providence Library was super busy, despite having to deal with COVID and shutting down during certain periods. We serviced our community with virtually and doing outside events. We were able to get a grant of $143,397. That's the total competitive grants that they were awarded. We had virtual visits of 131,000 visits. We ran 849 library programs, and there were about 9,430 attendees at some of these programs. So very busy. The library did not slow down during the pandemic. They kept working. Our senior center held a welcome back celebration after being closed for 18 months. We did hire a new healthy aging nurse who's doing an incredible job this year. She's pictured here. That's Shani. She's doing a great job. We did dedicate the senior center to the former director, Rob Rock. And we also managed, like I mentioned earlier, we managed the hotline. So the senior center had to, they had to deal with and flow with the changes that we were dealing with. And they were very effective in dealing with the hotline. They received approximately 100,000 calls into our hotline. And those calls were usually people in the community who were just looking for service. They didn't know how to go about getting registered for vaccines and other things. So it's a great accomplishment. By the way, in 2021, we delivered or served 17,671 meals to East Providence's older population and disabled people. Our recreation department, despite this pandemic, they still were busy. After school program at the rec, we had 18 after school members. We did host a summer camp with 132 campers. We also held, they organized and helped hold the 11th annual Winterfest celebration, which was a rebound from the pandemic. There were probably approximately 300 illuminated trees that are in honor of those that have passed. This year, they added a laser show and other family-friendly activities. Also, we had to take a break from having our fireworks in 2020. In 2021, we had an incredible fireworks celebration, Independence Day celebration, with the help of our recreation department helping to organize that. Most, if not all, I think approximately all of the performers were free. They came in and performed for free. They wanted to bring the community back and kind of put this whole thing behind us. So that was a really nice event put on by the rec department. Carousel, despite being shut down, they still put together some programs to keep people engaged, to keep our community involved, and to raise funds. So the Great County Pumpkin Festival was held. Trunk or Treat was held. Cruise nights were happening on Saturdays in May and September, and movies in the park. So a lot of great things happening at the carousel. And just to bring you an update, we are actively working on stabilizing that carousel, and we hope to have it open this year. Our IT department, they were super busy dealing with making sure employees could work from home safely, setting up the COVID vaccination and testing sites. That pod required a lot of IT support, and they were able to help set that up. They, of course, managed all important city meetings while we were doing them hybridly, and they worked on the fire department conversion to symposium. The senior center received a new phone system and a new bingo machine. So if you haven't seen it, they've got an electronic bingo machine, which is incredible. Stop by, they set that whole thing up. The finance department was busy as usual. There's some of the data, but they put out 27 RFPs and processed 7,085 purchase orders, and they handled 14,744 invoices. So it's a busy department, as well as doing all of the collections. You can see here, that's what they collected and how busy they were despite the pandemic. Our East Providence High School. I mean, there's nothing that makes me more proud than driving by that high school and seeing how that thing came to fruition and opened up officially this past year in 2021. Despite the pandemic and this project kicking off in the heart of the pandemic, they were able to build that school within 2 years. The city was involved in helping to secure funding, and because of some creative financing and because of some really advantageous interest rates, we saved our taxpayers about $2.5 million a year in payments and debt service payments. So that's significant, $2.5 million a year. But it's really thanks to the efforts of the East Providence School Building Committee, which Councilman Cahoon was a part of from day one. We're getting a 74% reimbursement from the state on all on the educational aspects of the project. So very, very proud moment. And I get people from all over the state talking about this school, and people are now following our lead. Other communities want to be the next one to build a brand new school. And we were the first one, I think 20 years to build a brand new school, right, Councilman?
Yes, sir.
First community in 20 years. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot to get something done like this. A lot of credit goes to the superintendent, school committee. By the way, one of our favorite members of the school committee is here, Jessica Bouchain. She was instrumental in seeing this project through. So very grateful to her and all the people that came out to support this project. Makes our city shine. Infrastructure improvements, you've heard about it, but just to share with the community, these projects are going to have an incredible impact on our city and the way traffic comes to and travels through our city. So the new off-ramp from 195 West onto Waterfront Drive is going to be a huge improvement to what happens at Broadway at the off-ramp right now. There's only one off-ramp coming from 195 West from Massachusetts into East Providence, and everyone gets off at Broadway. That creates traffic nightmares at certain times during the day. We were lobbying from day one, lobbying our DOT partners and our federal legislators to see if we can get this thing funded. This is not something that we came up with. This is a project that had been talked about for many years, but we were actively, asking our partners to see if we can get this to become a reality. And when we got the money announced that the money was coming for this, we were very excited, because not only will this make traveling through the Washington Bridge much smoother, it's also going to open up economic development opportunities along the waterfront. People will be able to come off this off-ramp directly onto Waterfront Drive and visit some of the beautiful amenities that are going to be happening along our waterfront. In a few years, in about 5-6 years, you're going to see East Providence become a destination spot where people are going to want to come from all over to come enjoy the beautiful access to the waterfront that right now is not available. Henderson Bridge has been mentioned. We're very excited about that project. It replaces a 6-lane structurally deficient bridge, converts it in interchange to at grade. So all that bridge structure is going to be gone. It's going to provide a separate bike pedestrian infrastructure to the bike path. But what's most important is that it opens up land for future development. Land that's right now is tied up by on-ramps and by bridge structure. That land will become open. We've already started to see the Gulf property on Massasoit is going to be the home of Honeybird restaurants. That development is happening because the purchaser of that property realized what a huge impact this new bridge is going to make to the area. So he purchased that property, and he told me directly he purchased that property because of the Henderson Bridge project. And already we're seeing some changes to that property. What was once a contaminated property, now you're going to have a nice, vibrant development there eventually. Phase 2, and we can leave that up, but Phase 2 of Henderson Bridge, just to share with the council and the public, is continuing from Massasoit to Broadway and beyond. And we're going to be working with the DOT to put in for a grant from the federal government to see if we can get funding to get that Phase 2 done, which would be taking that 6 lanes of highways and turning it more into a 2-lane road with a park in the middle, and connecting neighborhoods that have been divided by that highway structure. So you'll be able to connect one part of the neighborhood to the next neighborhood. So we're excited about that becoming a reality. Infrastructure improvement. This is the city's third year of municipal street paving. We did 10.16 miles, and we plan on beginning the sidewalk renovations on Pawtucket Avenue this year. We've been working with our partners at DOT. As a matter of fact, I think we have a meeting tomorrow with Director Alvidi and some of his team, because we're trying to get DOT to pick up portions of this project. The council, thank you to the council who did allocate $1 million in capital funds to make this project become a reality. And we are working closely with DOT to see if they'll pick up some of the share also. 2022 will be the fourth year of street paving, and we hope to get to a lot of the streets that we weren't able to get to last year. Infrastructure improvement continues. I just like talking about some of the things that we see out in public. Our parks, we did a lot of improvements to our parks. We're going to be unveiling some with the Arts Council on March 20th, by the way. If you're listening at home, we'd love to see you out there. We're going to unveil some playful metal sculptures at Riverside Square along the bike path. The whole idea behind this project was to get families and children to stop, take a look, take photos, and observe what else is going on around Riverside Square. So when you're out there with your family and kids and you see these playful, whimsical, as Director DaSilva likes to see these whimsical structures, when they see them, stop for a minute, see what's going on, check out some of the businesses, see what's going on in Riverside Square so that you can engage with some of the businesses that are there, take a photo, post it on social media, that kind of stuff. We made great improvements to Pierce Field. We did add a new splash pad, which was a huge, big hit. It's wonderful to see grandparents with their kids carrying towels and beach bags, walking from the neighborhood right to the splash pad, and that's something special. We really are excited about that. We added lights, and I think we completed the wiring at the Roderick's Field at Pierce. We also contributed a large amount of money for the engineering and installation of the lights at the Kimberly Rock Field. Willett Pond, we made huge improvements and we'll continue to make some improvements this year, as well as Grassy Plains Park. We made some major improvements there, which makes the park a friendly and nicer place to be. This is real quick. You all know about this, but you know, the city of East Providence, their water comes from the Situate Reservoir. We own the pipes, the transmission lines that come from Budlong Road all the way across Cranston, underneath Route 95, underneath railroad tracks, underneath the bay to East Providence. Those pipes are what brings the water to East Providence for us to drink and use for other needs, for washing and cooking and everything else. So those pipes had not been inspected in years, I think 70 or 80 years. We are now engaging in a process to inspect those pipes to make sure that they're secure. Bristol County Water Authority, they completed the first phase of their backup water pipeline. They paid $6.9 million for the emergency pipeline that goes from their access point, their pump's house, to the water tower at Kent Heights. So that's that not only helps Bristol County Water Authority, but it helps us should we lose our main source of water. It wouldn't give us the amount of water we need, but it would give us some water. So that pipe is a huge asset in making our drinking water supply safer. Phase 2, of course, is our partnership with Bristol County Water Authority to connect to the Pawtucket water supply so that we'll have a true second source of water to service the people of East Providence. Very exciting. Infrastructure, wastewater. After an 18-month negotiation, the city, with the help of Arcadis, negotiated a new wastewater contract with Suez. Annual savings of $250,000 over the 10-year life of the contract. It's a $2.5 million savings to the people of East Providence. So it was a good contract. One of the highlights, of course, is that we require that they cover the clarifiers, the primary clarifiers that contribute to a lot of odor in the Riverside area around the treatment plant. So they are, and I spoke to our DPW director who's away today and he couldn't be here. They have been working, they've been meeting with them, and they plan on kicking off that project this year to start the work there. We've also started working and engineering to take care of the problems at the main at the main containment tanks that have deteriorated over the years. And it's also important, we had a presentation, but the public should know that many of the pipes, many of the sewer pipes that are underneath the ground that you don't see, they're 70+ years old, and they're made of vitrified clay. I've seen the videos. I know we've done a presentation here for the council, but for those people who haven't seen it, there are some pipes that have collapsed to a point where we don't know where the water flow, where the sewage flow is going. So those need to be addressed immediately. We're putting together a plan to come to the council when that is ready to go. By the way, we did work with the town of Barrington. Barrington is going to pick up 40% of the cost to repair the holding tanks. As you may be aware, part of the issue of the deterioration of the concrete there was because of some of the higher sulfur readings in the Barrington sewage flow. We're working on the infrastructure project at Rose Larissa Wall. We're getting close. If you look at that photo at the bottom there, those granite blocks, we're looking to see if we can utilize them to build retaining walls along the Rose Larissa Park seawall. Those same blocks were once at the two rivers in Providence. When they moved the rivers to make Water Place Park in Providence, they stored all those blocks behind Office Parkway on a right-of-way piece of property that's owned by DOT. So our contractor's been out there sorting the blocks, putting them in different piles, and then we're going to see if we can utilize those to make that retaining wall. Very exciting. Our street lights should be kicking off this month. I know there's been a problem with supply line on getting some of the harnesses, but we hope to start hot and heavy this month to replace all of our street lights. As many of you know, and for those of you listening at home who do not know, East Providence DOT National Grid reached an agreement that ended litigation on who pays for streetlights on state roads. The streetlights on state-owned roads have been historically paid by the municipality. We were suing to stop that, and DOT, National Grid, and us came to an agreement with all the other municipalities involved. They also are afforded the same agreement. And in 2021, we purchased those streetlights from National Grid for $286,000, and we contracted with Rise Engineering to begin the conversion process. There's 5,200 streetlights. We're going to be converting them all to LED. Annual savings to the taxpayers once this project is completely up and running will be $500,000. So it's a significant savings to our taxpayers. Community center. I know earlier today we deobligated a prior bond authorization that was put in place many years ago to build the city of East Providence a community center. Well, whoever the city leaders were back then, they decided not to follow the will of the people of East Providence. They decided that they were not going to follow through on that bond obligation that had been voted on and approved by the people of the city of East Providence. Imagine us doing that with the new school bond. You know, it just makes no sense. But here we are today, looking at whether or not it makes sense for us to build a community center. Of course it does. It makes a lot of sense. We've got an architectural group that's looking at the feasibility of building it. We hope what we started doing now is right now we're meeting with our internal department heads who plan on having programs within this new facility if we build it. And once we have a finalized plan and we meet again, we'll bring it to the public and to the council to get public input, because we want to hear what the people have to say about this potential new community center. FYI, the governor has put in for a request for about $40-some-odd million to support community centers. And we're hoping that we get a piece of that for our community too. So we feel that now is the time. We're in a position where we can actually build our city a true community center, a multi-purpose, multi-use community center. Community engagement, we spoke about this earlier, but you know, we did a lot of things during the pandemic. We wanted to boost morale, and we did a lot of things to bring people together. The Independence Day celebration was really special. And then we held the first of its kind memorial tree lighting in holiday vendor bazaar at City Hall. We closed off some of the streets. We had vendors. We had families come in and memorialize their loved ones, and they put up ornaments in memory of the people that they lost to COVID. We hope that this will be an annual event that will grow, and we hope that our Christmas bazaar will become bigger and bigger. And I want to thank the council for voting on that ordinance change that negates or gets rid of the hawkers licenses going forward. Councilman Rodrigues, I really appreciate your leadership on that. Thank you. Community collaboration. We've been working with members of our community, Friends of Grassy Plains Park. Great group that came together. Actually, they were some of those members were introduced to me by Councilman Rado. Those people have come together, formed a 501c. They've made great improvements to Grassy Plains Park, and with the help of our planning department, applied for a grant, close to $100,000 grant that will help improve some of the walking trails within the park and through the woods. So we're very excited about that. We also have been collaborating very closely with East Providence Arts Council. They applied for a Bloomberg grant, which we hope to see that project developed this year. It's an exciting project. Wachamoka Square art installations are coming up. I mean, this is all collaboration with these organizations, and we would not be able to do this without them. EP Urban Forest, they were able to apply for a grant with the help of one of our planners, and they did a tree planting at White Neck, and they also helped to fund through some grant writing the first ever citywide street tree inventory. So we have a GIS now that we're happy to have somebody come and show you at some point that lays out where every single tree is located, every single street tree in the city is located. And the Rhode Island Tree Council also held its first ever Arbor Day festivities in East Providence, and they planted $10,000 worth of trees at Hull Street Playground. So that was nice, and that was on their dime. They paid for that. Kettle Point, we accepted the donation from the Kettle Point, from the Churchill and Banks, the people who developed the Kettle Point project. One of the side benefits, of course, of these developments, especially when you're developing these once former oil tanks, very contaminated properties, is that we're creating new access to the community to our waterfront. This fishing pier was never available to the community, and thanks to Churchill and Banks and their donation to the city, they rehabbed this fish pier, deeded it over to the city. It's now a city park. So it's really nice to see people using it. Trish, I think I froze. Hold on. There we go. There we go. All right. So what's next? We got a lot of projects kicking off going vertical this year. You know, a lot of these projects started in 2021 with site work. We got Wampanoag Meadows. We got the Newport Center, East Point that you guys are well aware of. The residents of Riverside Square, which is the former Vamco property, they're going to be breaking ground this year, which is a really unique project. It's affordable housing, but also transitional housing for people in foster care. So children who have aged out of foster care will now have a place to live. And then the apartments at 145 Waterman Avenue, which is a former industrial site, that's going to get developed. It's going to be really nice. Burnside Hoppin, we're getting ready to award those on the RFP. Ivy Place is right across from City Hall. That's going to be breaking ground this year. A lot of these developments, Ivy Place specifically in the Vamco project, they had to get additional funding because the cost of materials went up and the cost of construction went up. So they had to petition the state and Rhode Island Housing for more funding. Union Primary School, we're very close to turning that property over to a developer. I think we got some approvals on it the other day at the zoning board. And the Bull Point Residences, which was the addition to the former car lot at the bottom of Warren Avenue at the on-ramp, that second phase is almost done. We have some other commercial things that are happening up on Newport Avenue. We have a Popeyes that will be opening up. Honeybird Kitchen on Massasoit Ave, I mentioned that earlier. And Chase Bank on Pawtucket Avenue will be at the corner of Taunton Avenue and Pawtucket Avenue at the former gas station there. So that's a nice project. So here's what's going on as far as new businesses and expanding businesses in our city. Crook Point Brewery, they've been working on that project, and it's a small family-owned business. They've been working on that project for quite some time. The pandemic hit them hard like it hit anybody else, but they plan on opening up this year on Massasoit Ave. It'll be our first brewery in East Providence. Incredibles is going at the former Guyps Meat Market on South Broadway. Nexans, this is a big project. You see this photo, this is what they do. They make cable, and they are a leading supplier and supporter of the IGUS Industries that's located here in East Providence and offshore wind. So with all the offshore wind that's going on off our coast, they moved their part of their operations from another state to East Providence, which means, once again, good paying jobs and broadening our tax base. And we always love to see industry coming into East Providence. BSM Pump is going to be at Narragansett Park Drive. The Drip Bar across the street will be opening up soon, and Thompson Insurance on Waterman Avenue. This is an exciting project I wanted to share with the public. We went out to try to develop our senior center grounds. Some of the seniors had reached out, and our senior center director had reached out regarding the walkways and pathways that are at the senior center. They're all in bad shape. You know, it's kind of tripping hazard in some places. But we looked at it, and we have this is from a landscape architect who gave us this plan. We're going to go out to RFP to get some pricing. This is being funded primarily with CDBG funding. What's cool about this development is that we are adding a pickleball court for our seniors to use. We'll have some little areas, lots of trees will get planted, lots and lots of trees. We'll have a couple of rain gardens, and we'll have some areas where people can sit and enjoy the grounds. So we're very excited about that. We hope to break ground on this project this year. So, I mean, 2021 was a blur. It went by so fast, and we still managed to get a lot of things happening. Real quick, and I mentioned some of these in some of the other slides, so I won't repeat it. But I spoke to the owners and the developers of the property abutting Bull Point Park. Bull Point Park has been the home to Bull Point concert series for quite some time. Live Nations have been running some shows there over the last few years. They plan on running shows there this year again, but they want to break ground on the parcel that they own next door to build a outdoor pavilion similar to what they have in Boston at the Leader Bank Pavilion. If you Google Leader Bank Pavilion, that's what they're trying to build on our waterfront, which would be incredible. We're also looking at making major improvements at Bull Point Park. We have already submitted application to CRMC to do some paving and some planting, and also at the addition of a kayak launch. That kayak launch is being paid for by the Chevron, I believe, or P&W. I'm not sure exactly which one, but it was the previous property owners. Part of the deal was that they would pay for that. So we're excited about that. And also Rhode Island Waterfront Enterprises and Live Nation are going to be contributing quite a bit to the improvements at Bull Point Park. They've already contributed a lot by providing the engineering work. They hired an engineer who came in and did all the engineering work. They've been working with our DPW director and deputy director to make sure that everything's done the right way, but we'll be coming to the council with some information on that shortly. Mentioned the road paving that's going to happen, Vamco, the Vamco building in Riverside. And also we're going to start working on, we're hoping to break ground on the parking on Warren Avenue across from the old Oddfellows home. That's a project that we're working on, trying to get some engineering done on that. That's a little bit more complicated sometimes than you think. It's not just paving over. You got to do all the engineering work and water retention on site. Jones Pond, I know that's come up in discussion in the past. We have some great plans for Jones Pond. We put some aerators at Willett Pond that were a huge success, and we plan on putting some aerators at Jones Pond. We plan on dealing with some of the grasses that are growing there and some of the landscaping that needs to be done. So that's a project that's on the forefront and will be taking place this year. Last but not least, the future is bright for East Providence. The primary goal of our administration is to have East Providence realize its fullest potential. It's working together with all of you. And I ask all of us to continue working together so that 2022 promises to be a year of unprecedented economic growth. Thank you to our community, the city council, especially, because a lot of this would not be possible without your input, your ideas, and the funding that you make available for us. Our department heads who work tirelessly to make sure that these projects come to fruition, and all of our city staff for everything they've accomplished in 2021. The document that we had originally was much more encompassing than this. We try to shorten this up, believe it or not. And I know it's late, and I appreciate that the council allowed me the opportunity to come and speak before you. I'm probably, like Council President mentioned, one of the days we had more presentations than you ever had in quite some time. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them the best I can. That being said, I thank the council, and we continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.